New York Jets head coach Aaron Glenn had some positive things to say about guard Elijah Vera Tucker. This is per Zach Rosenblatt of The Athletic. Glenn called AVT a great player and said, quote, hopefully at some point we can get something done, unquote, meaning an extension. So short words from Aaron Glenn, but it sounds like they have plans to keep Elijah Vera Tucker in the fold as a New York Jet for the medium to long term. Now, with AVT, the pros for extending him just turned 26 years old last month. So this is a player that you would be retaining for the duration of his prime. His contract, guaranteed money, probably would not even go until his age 30 season. So that is no factor. He also has the positional versatility. He has started games at left guard, right guard, left tackle, and right tackle. I'm sure if you gave him a week to practice at center, he could probably do that too. So you're getting a guy who has 4 spot versatility, potentially even 5. Now, as a Jet fan, you probably, at least I feel, hey, stick him at right guard, keep him at right guard, don't move him. And I think that's been their plan. They've said as much, and obviously drafting Armand Membu tells you they don't plan to start AVT at right tackle. And I think as a team, you should have the requisite depth to not be one injury away from moving around, you're shuffling around your offensive lineman. But if you're down 3, 4 guys like we've seen happen around the NFL, and you have to break glass in case of emergency, you can move AVT. We saw the Chiefs do that last year, playing a guard at left tackle, got them to the Super Bowl, right? So a lot of teams do it, not just the Jets. It's not ideal, but his agent will bring that up, right? That is going to increase the market that a player like AVT has, that positional versatility. There might be a team that just sees him as a tackle. Said, hey, no, we're going to play you up at right tackle or left tackle and pay you the money that reflects that. So we'll see. AVT and his agent will have a better sense of that, and the Jets than obviously we do. But I see him as a right guard, and you pay him as a really excellent right guard. Why? Because AVT was awesome last year. I know last year sucked, but there were some positives to take away. Jamie Sherwood was a breakout player on the defense, and he was paid for that. But I really think the breakout player on offense last year was Elijah Vera Tucker. And offensive linemen don't break out in sexy ways. They don't catch touchdown passes. But in pass pro, he was absolutely elite. He had the third lowest pressure rate allowed for any guard that had enough snaps to qualify. And I think that, and as a run blocker, he wasn't as good. That was pretty much the same for the entire Jets offensive line. They were a good pass protecting unit. Their run blocking was not good at all. Now, some of that was just on the players. Some of it, they have guys who are maybe better pass protectors than run blockers, but a lot of it was, as we know, and we beat to death, the Jets schematically had a broken rushing offense last year, and they just didn't run the ball a lot. They had the 32nd amount of rushing volume last season, with Keith Carter being the run game coordinator and Nate Hackett being the offensive line coach. I think if you're looking at any player on the Jets offense, it is hard to imagine they're going to get worse coaching than last year, right? So even players like Jeremy Rucker, who haven't shown a ton, like, it can only go up in terms of the coaching that they're getting. And that's the case with Elijah Vera Tucker as well. And not just the quality of coaching, but stylistically, schematically, I think will be a better fit going from Hackett to Engstrand if Engstrand's offense does mirror Ben Johnson's, which I know we say like, hey, we don't know. Maybe he has a way different philosophy than Ben Johnson. Well, that would be dumb because Ben Johnson, it was a phenomenal offensive coordinator, and Engstrand watched him firsthand cook up an elite offense. I know it's Fields to Goff, it's different, but from a run game perspective, like, yeah, just do what they did, man. It worked. And it worked in part because they ran the third most amount of wide zone in the NFL last year to the Detroit Lions. And wide zone is more conducive to AVT's skill set. Don't have the stats on that, but we have eyes. AVT is much better on the move. That we knew that with him coming out of college. That's just his forte. And I think that's the case now, looking at the Jets' 5 starters pretty much across the board, with the exception of maybe John Simpson. The Jets ran a lot more gap power last year. I think with guys like Terrence Smith and Morgan Moses, they were better that way. But now when you got Bashanu, now you got Membu with AVT tip, I think running more wide zone is just a better approach with the Jets offensive line. And it's better with Breece Hall. His splits on wide zone are pretty stark, as are the Jets' ability to run the football when AVT is on the field versus off the field. it is like almost a half yard per carry difference, which is huge. And the leadership, you don't have to be a rah-rah guy to be a leader. I think AVT is just a dude who shows up, brings his lunch pail to work, and does his damn job every day. And we can appreciate that. You can lead by example, not going to be any off the field nonsense, whatever the case may be. So he's squared away in that regard. Now the cons, really the only reason this is a pros and cons list instead of just pay him is the multiple season-ending injuries. Plays all of his games as a rookie. Then he has the tricep tear, followed by the Achilles tear. Misses the majority of 2 back-to-back seasons. Last year, he got nicked, missed 2 games. So it's really just, do you believe he can be available? Because if he can be on the field, AVT is your best offensive lineman. We'll see what we got with Fashanu and Membu. Maybe you could say if Fashanu develops, he's more valuable because he's on the left side, all that. But right now, who's the best offensive lineman on the Jets? To me, it's AVT. I don't really have to think about it. He is a $20 million player when he's on the field, in my opinion. But we saw the Jets sign a guy in Carl Lawson who had multiple season-ending injuries, and they just hoped that would not happen. And then, immediate third season-ending injury, and then it's just, you have to factor that in. Now, it's also not the most premium position, like left tackle, like edge, like wide receiver. It is very, very important, but it's not necessarily the most premium position. And my 2 cents on this is, look, man, I think he's worth it if they believe he can stay on the field. And if you're not going to pay somebody like AVT, there's not a ton of other really good young players that they haven't paid yet. Now that Sauce has been taken care of, Garrett's been taken care of, obviously Sherwood, and then guys like Brees and Jermaine, you're just waiting on because Jermaine fresh off of an Achilles tear, and Brees, the contracts are just different with running backs. So he would be the next guy up, I would imagine, if they're going to extend someone soon. And I know this is pretty rare, but he would, to me, would be a perfect candidate for that in-season bye week extension. The most recent example of the Jets doing this was when Joe Douglas extended John Franklin Myers to, at the time, it was a pretty rich contract, but I believe JFM is still on that contract. It's just been tweaked, and now it's like a steal. So that was a pretty good deal there. And again, it's not common for deals of this magnitude, but the Jets bye week is week 9. So if ABT is like, he's played 7 or 8 games by then, and now you feel like, okay, now you've played in 25 out of 20 the last 28 games. You have a bigger sample size of health, and you want to go ahead and meet in the middle there and not wait until he gets to the offseason, which if he plays a full season, he's going to have, he'll probably be arguably the top interior offensive lineman on the market if he hits the market next offseason. So that would kind of be the sweet spot for me, but we'll see what happens, and we'll talk about soon.